Hello and welcome to another Cosmic Heart Conversation podcast with myself, Georgie Dragonfly, and you're joined with the beautiful Aria Young, who's now going to welcome herself into this beautiful space. Welcome and bring yourself in, introduce yourself.
Hello. First of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, my name is Aria. I am Aria Young on everything. I'm a soul remembrance guide, a YouTuber, a cosmic channel, earth priestess. I could give you all the labels to no end, but really, I'm really here to allow people the space and the remembrance to come back to their natural being, come back to this deeper love within them. And it's Oh, man, I'm just excited to talk about everything because it's literally opened my heart in a way that I could never imagine. And like everything that sounds cliche, like is real and like deep within my life right now.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'm just happy to be here in this conversation. It feels like such a catalyst for this kind of next level in my own journey and in my own business and my mission here. But yeah, I'm just here to remind people that they have all the tools, everything they need within them, and that community is a safe place for them because that's what we're moving toward, I feel like.
Yeah, to the community. And this is really what this podcast is even creating, like this kind of little community of people. They're like, oh, because people will find you guys, everyone who's been, here to share their story and finding that resonance and finding their own soul path through that, I feel can really spark that remembrance. And I
Yes.
must say, I'm very grateful for you to be here. Just, I feel like an oozing of just love and joy from you. And I just love that when people are just there, open, and it's just this open-hearted person that's just there to feel that and open that to others. So it's like by just your being, people can really go, oh wow, that's available. That's I can do
Yes.
that too. So where did this all start for you?
Mm.
Where did it all begin?
Yeah. So I always go back to an experience where I was a teenager. I was like about 15 or 16.
Mhm.
And I was just kind of going back and forth, figuring out like, who am I? What do I want to do? I was very much that teenager that was like, I don't need high school. Like, I just want to go and like live my life and have a career and all this stuff. So I found a lot of my passion in dance. And this is something that I grew up with.
Mm.
And eventually, I had to get this very random urgent surgery on my hip. I had fibrosis dysplasia, and it was just like one dance class. And I was like, huh, I think I sprained or pulled a muscle in my hamstring, but it was actually a hairline fracture in my hip. And they had to put a metal rod in my femur bone to stabilize my hip so that I could walk, because otherwise I would have broken my hip at
Mm.
like 16 years old. And I was like, where does this come from? Why is this happening? And that was a moment for me. It was looking back. I want to say it was really powerful. But at the time, like I completely shut down. I didn't allow myself to feel much. I really literally blacked out in the few months before the surgery because it was like I couldn't do what I wanted to do. I couldn't do what I thought I was meant to do, right? My passion. I wanted to do this. I wanted to dance and be a dancer. And so after that experience and after the surgery, I realized that I could do things I thought I couldn't do. I started writing. I was writing books and stories, and it allowed my imagination to come out. And through all of that, I also started doing yoga, and yoga led me back to an experience I had when I was 12, and I was in Shavasana, and the woman that was teaching, she brought like lavender and she would like massage our shoulders and like our third eye and everything during
Wow.
the class when I was 12. And it was just like the most beautiful experience. So like I continued doing yoga every single day, led me to meditation. But overall, it's from this standpoint, it's hard to look back and be like, where did it start? Because I'm so sure like it starts when we're born, you know, like that's when the spiritual journey really starts, because everything that I've been stepping into and opening up to right now has been a reflection of who I was as a child. This little girl that just wanted to be outside with nature, to play, to be seen, to be loved. Like it's just so simple. And but yeah, overall, that experience of having that surgery and realizing that I could write when I thought I couldn't, and I said I wasn't a reader, that's my sister's thing, and actually claiming parts of myself back by setting a daily practice of doing yoga, especially since like my body was forcing me to do it. Like my body was like, this is the only thing you can do, because I literally had to teach myself how to walk again. So it was a huge experience for me that I didn't realize was going to be the catalyst for something so much deeper and something that felt like mine. And through that journey of like allowing myself to step into meditation and spirituality and everything, I learned so much about my ego and why I needed to necessarily connect myself to a mission or a purpose, and what I was escaping through that experience. And last year was another big moment where I had the opportunity um, not to shut down like I did when I had my surgery. And I write about this a little bit deeper in a book that I'm in. I'm in a co-author book called The Sacred Feminine. And basically this experience, this breakup that I had last year, was that opportunity to open rather than close myself, and something that felt like, you know, death inside. And it was so powerful, and I feel like I'm still opening, I'm still healing in so many different ways, but it's like a newer, higher perspective of this experience to allow this opening. And I'm just so grateful for every little experience that literally brings me back to my inner child, brings me back to that source within me. So yeah, hard to pinpoint, but at the same time, it's like it's literally been just the perfect, my soul has created like the perfect little timeline for me in opening up to this remembrance of who I am.
Yeah, and I feel like relationships and things like that are the keys to learning from our through, we learn about ourselves even through relationships. So it's,
Yes.
to think that we could just be like solitary beings, that community, relationships, even if we have people within our lives, that's still a little community that we have. And even a relationship you could call is like a mini community.
Mhm.
And we have to
Such
like learn, yeah,
powerful.
if you got to shift out of that into a new state of being, it's like a whole new community as well that you're living in. When you start to leave a relationship, then it starts to create all of a ripple effect in your whole life again, with like the different people that you associate yourself around and all of that. And then you start
Yes.
to have all these new people start to come in your life, and yeah. So yeah, I can feel you with that one. And along the way, did light language come on um, before that?
Yeah.
Was this something that was already in place?
Yeah, so I actually started speaking it without knowing what it was when I
Mhm.
was like 12 or 13, and maybe even younger. But I actually opened myself to explore like actually being a channel. I want to say, I can't really pinpoint the date. It's been a few years, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago,
Mhm.
because the time has just been going by. It's already 2022.
And is
But
it really in a
yeah.
line? It's like,
Is it?
yeah.
Exactly. So yeah, that was huge for me, and in just like my soul journey as well, and my own expression, and like being able to come on YouTube as a yoga and meditation instructor. Like that's why I started my YouTube. I was like, I'm just gonna teach yoga and do some meditation. Then I started doing talking videos, and then it turned into me just sharing like a light language transmission from the Arcturians. And I was like, holy cow, like this, I don't think anyone's going to receive this, but I wanted to share it. And that was actually one of my most popular videos that just like took off on YouTube. So it was like a sign for me to be like, okay, I can do this. Like I can be a channel. And I was just really inspired. Like, when you see people, people are reflections. When you see people doing things and you see someone and you just really resonate like with what they're doing, exactly what they're doing. And this is what happened on Instagram. Like I saw my first light language mentor on Instagram, and she was sharing just light language, and it was so simple. Like she didn't even show her face. She was just like a black screen, light language. And I was like, holy cow, this is her job. This is what she does. And then seeing Heather of Activation Vibration doing it, it just opened the door to another part of me. And had I just like glossed it over and been like, oh no, I'm not gonna, I was just really in a space of openness of like, what else can I do? What else can I journey into? Who else am I, basically?
Mm,
And I think that was huge in allowing myself to actually explore what that expression felt like and looked like, because I knew there was a part of me that knew that was inside of me,
mm.
just being able to see it.
Yeah, that's really nice. And you had a lot of it feels like there wasn't so much like a doubt in yourself either, like with what you were doing. You seem like you were just like, you could see other people were doing it, but yet you were like, oh, like I can do that because this is what I'm doing. Do you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah, the doubts came later.
Did they? Okay,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Because at first I was just, you practice in your room, you just channeling and doing all the fun things, and it's really nice. But actually opening up and doing that for other people, there were a lot of doubts. Like, because I started out doing like one-on-one little recordings for people,
Mhm.
and like connecting with their guides and their angels and their teams. And there was always that little part of me that was like, are you sure, like, is this actually what you're sharing, especially when it comes to um that translation of like what I'm feeling is a lot what I tend to do. And it would always be like, are you sure? Is this really happening?
Mm,
Are you just saying that because you like felt this one thing? Is it actually real? So it was very much of like letting those walls go down so that I could actually trust myself and trust my experience. And yeah, I have so many people to thank for like holding space for me, and even just like my family and my friends and my partner at the time for just like allowing me to kind of be that person that was getting into light language and they never heard of it in their entire lives, and for some reason I was doing it.
mm,
So there was it really took me on a whole journey, a whole journey. And that's why it's really important that I hold spaces where we can really integrate and go through the work after the activation, because it's like we're activated, but now what else is going to come up in response to this activation? What initiations are going to come up
mm,
so that we can really step into our mission? And light language is definitely one of those catalysts, but also like initiations into my own self-expression. I feel like it is every single time that I
mm.
allow myself to open up a little deeper into it. It's always an initiation.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And so you had quite a nice settle with your family, like they just allowed and you just kind of got on with it. There was no conflict. That's really
Yeah.
beautiful. Really
Yeah.
beautiful.
I'm so blessed in that way. I'm so
Yeah, yeah,
thankful that
yeah.
it wasn't a really tough experience.
Because a lot
It
of
was just
people,
really, yeah.
'cause a lot of people can have like either difficulty within like their, obviously within relationships and also within themselves. And of course, I feel like, you're a bit like me, a lot younger in the sort of spiritual field as well. Like I feel that even regardless of light language or not, and this is coming across from my own personal experience, that I would have these kind of doubts of like, can I do this because of even my age? Like how is all this
Mhm.
stuff coming into my awareness? And everybody around me that was doing the same thing was already a lot older, and they'd either just started like me or they had at least been doing it for a long time. There was, either way, there was definitely an age gap, and that was kind of interesting. And
Yeah.
I feel like now I'm starting to see a lot more people that are you know, in even in their teens, in their 20s and so forth. And it's like, this is cool. I'm seeing a lot more balance with
Yes.
everybody
I love
experiencing.
that.
Mm,
Yeah, I saw the opposite. Like I saw a lot of people younger than me. Like my mentor, she was a little, maybe she might have been like a couple years older than me, but like I saw a lot of younger people expressing it, and I think that's what like really helped me in solidifying that, like, oh, this is real. I'm not crazy. And then seeing like people that have been doing it for years, and then maybe that like that comparison came in to where I'm like, oh, I haven't been doing this for years, how can I ever charge this much for my services, you know? And
mm,
like those types of questions. But it's like, it's about that depth that you have within yourself, not necessarily like experience is everything, but also it's like, what is the depth of your worth and who you are and who you
mm.
believe that you are, and that trust in yourself. But yeah, I saw like a lot of young people doing it at first. I love that. I think that's so interesting, like seeing that difference in like people actually expressing it, and like what we're exposed to when we start
Yeah,
out, and
yeah.
like how that like shifts and changes our journey and what it
Mm.
teaches us. So cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's so different. I mean, because this was like in social groups, like I'd go to like things in my local area. I suppose on social media, it's like really different. Um,
Yeah, actually.
um, so with that, I'm thinking like now, how have you begun to integrate it into what you do? So like, is this something that you do as just a complete like modality as it is, or did you incorporate other things into it?
Yeah, I love that question because it's like you can do so much with light language. There's just so much. For me, because most of my journey's been about, you know, self-expression and being authentic to myself and allowing myself to open up to all expressions of life. It's been really important for me to hold spaces for those that are activating their light language or that
Mhm.
wish to activate their light language, and to kind of assist them on that journey that it takes us on, that initiation journey. And then as far as I went through, okay, so I went through creating my light language services. I started with like a healing light journey where I would just like hold space and just channel. And I was like, here you go. Like this is that healing modality basically. And then I started doing more messages and answering questions. And now it's kind of like a mesh of both. And I wanted to, I was like, oh, I want to be unique. Like I want to add something into it. I want to, you know, how we try to like create something that's special, quote unquote special or unique or whatever. And every time I did that, like it always led me back to like the simplicity of just channeling light language and just listening to the source within, and um trusting what is being shared and given to the other person through me. So yeah, I've kept it very simple for that, and I think that's a part of my own learning experience and my own self trust in myself, and not thinking that um, I need to make it different in order for it to be worth
Mm,
someone paying for or someone receiving, or you know, it was, that was like a big thing for me just in my business and in serving others, was really just honoring what I felt I was good at, and it was just being there and showing up and literally just channeling light language and keeping it simple. But yeah, I wish that I would, but maybe another day. Maybe another time.
no, I feel like that's a really beautiful thing that you can say there because it is about the simplicity, and we do sometimes overcomplicate things. And I think even overcomplicating this idea of you know, speaking light language and bringing this kind of thing through. Like, so I'd love to hear like more of your perspective on what you feel light language is, and for anybody that's either trying to experiencing it or is experiencing it, like how can we kind of bring a bit more of a relaxed approach to it?
Yeah. So what I always say is that light language is our light resonance. It's our soul's resonance. It's literally just who we are. So it's just a higher vibration or frequency of our expression. It expresses through vibration and energy, right? It's so much larger than life. And that's why it comes through in so many different ways, whether we're speaking it, moving it through, drawing, writing, whatever comes through, right? And that's what I always tell people, is that this is coming from your soul. This is a part of who you are. You're not necessarily, like, especially when we first activate it and we're playing with it, like, it's coming from within. This is something inside of you. Like, you can trust this. You're capable of holding it. Like, you were literally created to hold it if you're really allowing it to come through. And yeah, that's just like my biggest message, is just remembering that, like, the more that you tap into your heart, the more that you tap into your body and your being in your own energy, the more it's going to come through and feel so much more natural. So if it doesn't feel natural, then where is it coming from? Are you thinking about it,
Mm.
right? Is it coming from more of the mind, or what you've seen, or how you've been influenced? And it's like peeling back those layers so that you can really get to the core of who you are. And light language is so beautiful because it's like you don't necessarily have to be at the core of who you are all the time. Like, it's something you can access even when you do have those fears and those doubts and those, the lack of trust or whatever in yourself. Like, you can still access it, and it can assist you in actually moving through energy and alchemizing energy, and bringing up things from our past, or past lives, ancestral wounds, like, up to be healed. So there's so much beauty, and I guess I would say, yeah, there's so much of just yourself in it. If we let go of the idea of just like, oh, I'm gonna channel the Arcturians, but I haven't really allowed myself to speak light language as myself, you know? So just like being aware of where that's coming from, what your actual purpose in speaking light language is, I feel like has been a big thing. Like, why? A lot of the time, it may be an ego thing if we're seeing it come up a lot within our lives. But another part of us could be that soul part of us that just wants it to bring out, and there's lessons and there's teachings within both of that. But yeah,
Mm.
that's what I would say. Like, it, for me, definitely just realizing that this is coming from you, and this is something that, like, one of my mentors told me. She's like, this is just you coming through. This is just you that wants to express. It's your soul. Like, you're safe to feel it. It's not anything outside of you. If you're exploring, just here and now. And the more that you become aware of how you're feeling and when you're doing it will reveal so much more, and you'll be more connected to when, maybe other energies are like, inching up on your little light language session, and you're like, hey, I don't need you here. But yeah.
Mm. Yeah, because that's the
Mm.
thing, isn't it? There's a sort of like a new perception of like what is light language, because like is it just our heart? Is it our soul? Why does it sometimes sound like a galactic language or maybe a ancient language?
Mhm.
So do you sort of call in certain aspects, say, that you want to particularly channel, or is it just that you now kind of come into a space of just speaking from the soul?
Yeah, I feel like for me, starting out, it was definitely just from the soul. And the more that I continue to connect with, let's say, other like galactic families and star families and stuff like that, the more I realized that it was it was more difficult for me to connect with the ones that weren't resonant to my soul. So that's what was really important when channeling or looking to connect with certain galactic families. It's like you're going to really be such a strong, powerful channel because your soul has probably lived a lifetime with this race, or as this race, or has these beings within your field already, or within your spiritual team. So yeah, overall, for me, it really comes from my soul. Like, it really does. And I feel like when we expressing it and it sounds different every single time. Like, it's important to remember that, like, we're all multidimensional. We've had multiple lifetimes. We've existed as consciousness in other forms, and we're connected to such a large spiritual team. And we literally, like, as star seeds, we have origins in different places and different star systems and different galaxies and universes. Like, we are a mix up and makeup of so many different energies to just really go through this experience to assist the world during this time. So connecting with ourselves and what's resonant to us is like the most powerful thing that we can do. And a lot of the time when I do like videos and stuff like that, maybe I'll have an intention, and a lot of the times I just feel called to like the Pleiadians for this one, or like the Syrians lately. I've been really connecting with the Syrians lately, and they're like, all right, like, start recording. And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Mm.
So it's just listening within and not forcing anything. Because I realized when I was like forcing myself to like connect with them in talk-ins or something, it was just like, no, you don't need to be doing that right now. So it's just really honoring that not all of us are going to have those connections like everyone else does. It's like we have a very specific makeup that's meant to assist so many people. It's going to be so much more powerful because it's a part of who we are.
Mm.
Our galactic families are a part of who we are.
Yeah, yeah. It's so about like not seeing yourself as so separate,
Mm-hmm.
because that can like often happen if we think we're calling something in outside of ourselves. And I think we were talking earlier, weren't we, before we started this, about nature and how that's kind of connected to light language and the cosmos and everything.
Mhm. Yeah, and yeah, like you can channel so many different things. And like the elements, you could channel the elements. You can go out and sit by a tree and just like channel the energy of the tree, or just connect with the tree through light language. Like, light language isn't necessarily something that we just channel. It could be a form of, healing, or a form of expressing just ourselves. So yeah, and when it comes to nature, I guess, and realizing that all of this just really isn't outside of us.
Mm.
I think that's what we were mentioning, right? We were just mentioning that what is happening is coming from within, not seeing us as separate from these galactic families that we're connecting with, and not seeing it as like, oh, you give me the information, I'm going to spit it out. Like, no, this is actually coming from within you. How else are we able to do this? And I think this is really important for channeling in general, is to realize that um, it's not entirely natural for our makeup and our being to allow other beings to inhabit our being or our energy in our body. So the more that we can self-source what's coming through, and this is why it's so community is so powerful, because we're all reflections of each other. Whatever wisdom that you have, or whatever wisdom that I have, like, we both have it within us. We're just reflecting it and bringing it out and allowing it to be seen. So yeah, that whole idea of, I need to connect with this other being. It's like, yeah, sure you can, and we can connect like with ascended masters. I love connecting to the ascended masters. But it's remembering that like there is a resonance there. And that resonance is that oneness, and remembering that everything really comes from this oneness, this source. And that's been like the most powerful thing for me when allowing myself to be grounded in my channeling, is to remember that there's a oneness here. If I'm out here like connecting with Mother Mary, I know that she's in my heart, if I feel called to connect with this person, this being, I know that they're in my heart. So yeah, not forcing it, and remembering that this really is a resonance that comes from within. And I don't know, it just offers so much more confidence and so much more like, like a sigh of relief. Like, I don't necessarily have to go out and converse with like this galactic something or other that doesn't resonate with me.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't know if I answered or
You
mentioned
did, you did,
exactly.
because I do feel like I feel like again this is like another concern that often people find and have in their spiritual journey, is being a channel and what am I channeling? What am I picking up? And yes, sometimes we do end up kind of getting a bit of that happen because it just can happen sometimes. But when we're learning, especially, and I think even I've seen people that are even quite experienced in the field, and you think something's gone on there because something's shifted and something, it's all lessons to learn. And actually we can even see that some of these things are actually in fact a part of us, and they're just lower aspects, or lower aspects, or aspects that of a different resonance that are coming in for us to experience that and learn, transmute it, or just understand. We're not all light and fairies and
Exactly.
and it's all love and light. Sometimes we have to kind of get a bit of a talking down. But equally, I love what you said about the essence of Mary being in your heart. It's like what that she reflects, or that you see within her is within you, and yeah,
Yeah, and it's so true. The whole love and light thing, like we could go off on another conversation about that for sure. But yeah, it's huge. And I love that you said it really does teach us lessons. Like I've helped my sisters and my family go through so many different more negative entities or darker entities, and a lot of the time it's like they're offering a lesson and an opportunity there, and it's not something to fear, but it's also something to be aware of. And that's why, like, knowing our energy, like when you know your energy, you know when something's in there and when it's off, like you can really begin to tap into your own sovereignty as a soul,
mhm,
and the power of choice and consent. The more that we like anchor into our integrity and our authenticity, and it just becomes a lot easier for us to like catch on those things and start asking questions, and like tune into them a little bit more in a way that's not necessarily us just being open to everything. Because at first, like, definitely, I felt like I was open to everything, and I was like, oh, I gotta be careful what I'm connecting with, like, and then I was like, I don't consent to anything that is not in my soul essence. And as soon as like I allowed myself to claim that for myself and actually believe that I don't allow anything that is not
mhm,
of my soul's essence to be within this space, I've felt so much better about and so much stronger within myself, because I know that I'm not going to be susceptible to something. I can see and it can be in my space, but I'm not allowing it to affect me in a way. And it's taken me some time to get to that point of feeling really solid as a channel. I feel like it takes that practice. It takes those trials and errors, and just finding your own little special formula for protection, and um, yeah, going through the experiences of releasing and getting familiar with darker entities and darker energies is just, it's fun to me. But it's also like been such a huge learning experience, because that was like something that I dealt with a lot as a kid, was seeing a lot of like shadow people, and just so many things, so many experiences.
mhm. Is there any
Yeah.
that you feel called to share?
I'm like, huh. I did have, yeah, actually, because I'm glad that you mentioned, because I had this one experience that I haven't been able to like speak out loud, and I feel like now I can. So
This
I
is like a
feel
big
good.
moment.
This is a big moment, you guys. Just FYI. I had an experience when I was still living in the same city that I'm in now, and we were in this house, and I don't want to give you guys like the visual, but overall I was a, I we had a mirror, and I would see this being in the mirror, and I always thought it was my little sister, because we had a bunk bed and I would like sleep on the top bunk, and I would always see like, oh, there's this little girl just sitting there. But she didn't look very, she was very much that yin and yang type energy that I saw. But at the time I was seeing it as like this very like dark figure that like didn't have um proper limbs, and it was like very small. And it was like the craziest experience for me that like really shut down my third eye. Like I was like, nope, we're done. Everything's out, everything's bad. And that experience for me, just seeing that in the mirror, but not seeing it like when I looked down from the bunk bed was huge. And I used to like mention this story to like friends or family, like whenever we would have like, you know, scary story times, and I would like give them the whole thing and everyone would be like goosebumps everywhere. But now I don't have a charge. There's no charge to that experience. There used to be a charge and my eyes would well up. So big moment, no charge. But I realized that from that moment on, I would see these shadow people. I would, you know, experience like seeing uh past loved ones, or just I would see a lot. And I started putting fear into every single moment that I would see it. I would like close my eyes, I would turn away, I would completely just be like nope, nope, nope. And since then, I feel like in the past couple of years, allowing my light language to come through, it was very difficult for me to begin to visualize and tap into that because I was so afraid. I still had that fear and that experience. And I've been working with my team in allowing myself to open up a little bit more. And it's been magical and it's been beautiful. And just the opening was the healing for that experience that I had. Um, that really just like shook me. And I was like hearing voices, like it was a whole experience of this being that was like here to teach me something.
Mm,
So yeah, pretty huge. Like now I'm allowing myself to kind of open up in that way, and I'm not fearing a lot of like what I'm seeing and in the actual physical, because that was my experience as a kid. So it feels good. It feels
yeah.
good now.
Do you
Thanks for
help
like,
people? Do you help people that have like attachments and things?
I have, but it's been mainly friends and family.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I
because
like doing it.
it's an interesting role to kind of take on, isn't it? And I think it isn't
Mhm.
for the faint-hearted sometimes when things come up. But then it depends how you see things as well. Like yeah, like you say, like now you can see
Exactly.
it without a charge. And kids, we just don't get taught about how to deal with these things. And I think
Mm-mm.
most kids, and actually most people I've even interviewed on here, people talk about, you know, having these kind of experiences. And I relate, you know, I had some weird experiences as a kid and, you know, just was scared. And, you
It's
know, then someone could
terrifying.
go, oh, you know, maybe just call in this being to help you to let them go off this way. But instead you're just like, oh, they're here and they're in my fear, in my sphere, and there's nothing I can do about it. You almost feel defenseless at that age.
Yes.
So yeah, if we just
Mm-hmm.
had those little tools, and even now, I think, and then as adults, people often then get scared to open up because of maybe the experiences from a child.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
right, but then and that could come in with light language because it's then something so different. That's when people are scared of it, when actually it's just a natural
Mm-hmm.
state of expression and being. And
Yes.
so it's wonderful
Mm-hmm.
that you've managed to unravel all of that, really.
Yeah, it's
And I
been
imagine that
different.
some of that had to happen to allow the light language to even come through in the first place.
Yeah, like I said, it's like literally all perfectly aligned. Like all of our lessons and our teachings are perfectly aligned. And I love that you mentioned like as kids we don't have the tools. Like we have our caregivers or our parents, and they're like our gods, right? Like they take care of us. We don't necessarily have any type of responsibility, whether we want it or not. And I actually worked with the earth and the elements to write a book that's going to be coming out hopefully, you know, in the next couple months,
Mhm.
all about elements and mindfulness and like giving them tools to utilize the elements in the earth to actually assist them in what they're feeling and experiencing. And I was just like, as soon as you said that, I was like, that could be a tool like for people or for children that tend to see a lot and experience a lot, and a lot of these energies, like they can actually call upon an element or
Mm.
speak to the earth to kind of assist with that, because this is the that duality, that polarity type plane that we're on, and the earth is a part of that. So yeah, that just brought that up, because that's been a huge help in like allowing myself to feel safe enough to open up again to my psychic abilities and just light language in general. Like
Mm.
that was a big component that I felt like I was missing when I first started, that I didn't realize I needed, because we think everything's cosmic and galactic, and it's like no, there's a connection. We're the 0 point
Mm.
between the universe and the earth here, so it's like we can hold both of it, and we're like unstoppable.
Mm. Yeah, Phil, I'd love you to actually expand on that,
Yeah.
if you will, like about the elements and that assistance.
Yeah, yeah. So for me, in my journey, I've always felt really connected with the earth, but obviously, like as I grew up, I was kind of like losing that disconnect. Yeah, I was disconnecting a little bit more based on experiences and wanting to be a human being in this modern world. But really, it's been massive to allow myself to return home to the earth. And the more that I've been like studying with her and just like being with her and listening to her and just like the land that I'm actually on, and this is like one of the most powerful things that I've done, was actually learning about the spirit of the land. So knowing the name of like the native name, the local name for earth, from our indigenous people that
Mm.
lived on the land. How was the land used long ago, before all of this was kind of created? And in doing that, and offering and asking permission to actually hold ceremony, asking permission to actually do this type of work that I've been doing on the land for so long already, it was
Mm.
just like an instant like kind of ground down. Like it just really, it was like that second half of the pillar that needed to be rooted. And it wasn't necessarily just like imagining our roots connecting with the earth. It was like something that never leaves me. As long as I'm on this land, that's something that's always within me. And that really allowed me to open up also to the different elements and how it can really assist in not only just like cleansing and releasing, but so much more. Like allowing ourselves to listen to the elements, you guys, is like next level, because they're a part of everything. They're a part of who we are, and they live within us and outside of us. And when we allow ourselves to work with the power, these powerful guardian forces of the elements, like we are so much more, I don't want to say so much more powerful, but we just feel so much more grounded in our tools and our ability to hold space, our ability to channel, our ability to um, surrender and to trust in a much bigger way. So like these little tools that I'm offering kids is really just to tune into, okay, water, what does water teach us? What can water show us? And giving little practices to just like sit with water, or to play in water and just do it in a mindful way, or to thank the water.
Mm.
um, or even just with fire, I've been realizing that with cord cutting and everything, it's been so powerful to use the element of fire and burning cords rather than just cutting the cords. It just felt so much more like natural. So just utilizing them in a way that feels so much more like surrender. I feel like surrendering to the actual natural forces of the universe, and the elements are a part of that. So it's been huge. I don't know if that
Yeah,
explains
I think
or
that's
just let me
amazing, and I'm like, when I want this book. Um, so did this stuff come to you like naturally, intuitively, or is this stuff that, that you've gone away and discovered? I'd love to know more about where this is really rooted in for you. When did you start discovering um your work with the elements?
Yeah, actually, I've been working with the elements. I mean, we can all say that we've been working with the elements for a while, but I didn't start doing it completely like mindfully, honestly connecting with actual spirits of the elements, until maybe 2020, like really allowing myself to open up to that. And eventually I had my eyes on like this earth priestess training and everything, and that like really opened up the door for me to be like, I'm not the only one, like this is a thing. And foundations of actually smudging, and the foundations of um being in ceremony with water, like actually asking permission and remembering that we are, you know part of the earth, yes, but like we're all family here. And as human beings, like we've never asked permission, and the earth always gave us forgiveness.
Mm.
So when we allow ourselves to heal these relationships that we have with the land that we're on, the earth, the water, the fire, and the winds, um, it really opens up this door to allow us to connect deeper with our ancestors as well, that have lived for thousands of years on this planet, and all the beautiful divine ascended masters that incarnated on this planet. Like we have access to all of that when we allow ourselves to heal that relationship. And it gives us so much more, so much of a deeper foundation in connecting with that. But overall, yeah, really just the more that I open myself up to realize that, oh, having a relationship with water, was like the first thing that I started to do. And then having a relationship with the earth, and then creating a relationship with fire and the wind. And the wind is who on another level. And it's so it's so crazy the things that we receive and allow to come through when we actually listen and be with the elements. So when I allowed myself to do that, it was just, I can't describe it in words. I really can't. But that was huge for me. And it makes every single day, just like walking outside or doing anything at all in my life, just that much more magical, because I know I'm not alone in that sense. And I have so many, I have the elements on my side, rather than just kind of like being a part of the earth.
Yeah, I can feel you with that one. Like I've had some times where I've spent like a long time, like every day, all day, just being in the woods and just being there and just being with all the elements. And, you know, there's something starts to shift and happening in your physical and energetics, where you really start to understand like your part and your beingness, because I'm sure you'll relate with yoga as well, that we learn about the fact that all these elements reside within us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And that was I feel like when because yoga was kind of like the catalyst for everything for me at the end of the day. But yeah, like when I learned that within yoga, it wasn't something that I necessarily like drew into, because it was like it's very physical. Yoga is not a very physical practice, but also when I was learning like Ayurveda and the doshas and everything, it was very physical. And that was like another opportunity for me to begin healing in that way, and realize that like, okay, why am I escaping the physical, and like why don't I allow this to be integrated within my life? So yeah, it's within everything. I feel like the elements are really just the massive foundation, and it's just like the beginning of allowing ourselves to connect deeper with, yes, the earth, but also our ancestors. And these ancestors date back, not only on this planet, but others as well. Yeah.
Yes, that's a really interesting one. I remember being on a shamanic journey actually, and then I was first started off just thinking about the ancestors and all, earthly, and then I was like, whoa, oh my goodness, suddenly I realized how far back, yes, ancestors, star beings, and all of that started to like really shift in. Have you ever had any experiences like that?
Yes, definitely a lot. I've had a lot of experiences in that, and I still do. And it's still a growing process to really allow what I'm feeling, because a lot of the times, like being more clairsentient, I think that's what it is, the clear feeling, isn't that sentient?
Mm, mm.
Yeah. So being more clairsentient, it's like, oh, I need to actually accept the things that I'm feeling in my body. And that's always been my confirmation, is like that internal kind of feeling, or even the telepathy of it all. So yeah, I've had a lot of those experiences where I've connected with different like archetypes or aspects of myself, because it was connected with the ancestors, and having that big realization that, like, yes, our ancestors are actually from the stars, like we're one of them. It's really not that, wide span when it comes all down to it. It really is that simple oneness, that it always comes back to. And that's always been like something that I feel like our journey just continues to bring us back and back and back and back to.
Yeah, it always kind of starts off where you're like, this being, that being, I'm this being, I'm this starseed, I'm that starseed. And then it comes back to that wholeness and completeness. And have
Yeah.
you ever kind of had any Pacific star beings that you really relate with specifically?
Yes. So Lyran's, for sure, has been a very intimate connection. I feel like I've had a past life in Lyra during the Galactic Wars, for sure. So that's why I always feel like time is of the essence, and let's not let this happen again. Syrians, Arcturians are huge. The Pleiadians, Andromeda for sure, and just so many. I have so many placements and so many connections that, like, that's why it's hard, like when someone asks me like what, people normally ask me like what star being are you, like what star seed are you. I'm like, here's the thing. I've been around. And it's like accepting that, you don't have to pick one, you don't have to label yourself into one. So I'm glad that you mentioned like we have so many, but those are just a few that are more well known, and I'm still kind of like exploring the ones that aren't. And obviously like very elemental, the elementals as well, and the dragons have been massive. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard. Like I think it's really good. It's not actually saying hard. It's like it's not hard. It's about like you haven't had to kind of go through that getting fixed onto anything. I suppose we're just now. I think a lot of people now are able to be in a space where we can just accept that we can be all of these things and we can be none of these things, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a really beautiful, yeah, way to express and to share. So I'm wondering if you feel that you've got like a transmission that you would like to bring forward to maybe help anybody that may be going through this curiosity in the beginning stages, or whatever. Maybe you've got your own intuitive guidance on what you feel wants to be delivered.
Yeah, I'd love to bring something through. Yeah, and we'll see what comes up. Mm. Okay. I just want to remind everyone, you don't have to be in any certain state to receive light language, but if you want to drop in and just take a few breaths, feel free. I'm going to take a few breaths. Hmm. Orion's coming up really strongly. Just want to let y'all know. Mm. Ooh. Mm. Nakwa mbata shata yanda wa hayatakiam. Haretiata wa shatayarahiata uampo ayatakaya noa. Uarahi yataka mbwasa yata shiata hera huala yata nasya. Nasya, Nasya, Nasya. And the biggest message coming through here is that our open-heartedness is the most powerful shield. Arahiata nasu ua shariarahiata kayato ua satiarahiata. They're saying translate that how you will. Arahiata kua ya satiara hua shatia ndahiata ya satukuam. Arahiata siana ya lahiata ua satiarahia shatukua satiara yana ya sakua yata yata uasa. And also a lot of Syrian energy coming through. Ua sata nasiata takiata ua shatiana yata siato ua rehiana yarakia satia ua makiata sua matiata yarahia ua nahia ua. The breaths, thank you for receiving.
Thank you so much for your beautiful heart expansion and transmission. For all those that have been here and available to receive, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I'm just
you.
giggles now.
Because it does, doesn't it? It just brings joy and lightness and shifts any stagnation or whatever that we've got holding in our field. You know, it's always good to do that. So I'm wondering as well, for those that have really resonated today with your beautiful story and wisdom, what offerings would you like to share? And of course, everything will be in the description to find you. But I know that you do have a current offering that's happening in next month.
Yes, so March 12th, my dear sister Esther Joy and I are actually holding space for our Light Resonance portal. And this is the second time that we've done this. And it's an 8-week group mentorship program for those that are activating their light language during this time. And we go through all of the chakras to assist in allowing ourselves to ground this in and express it more openly during this time, and to really accept our gifts and to not overlook them, really owning them fully. So that is a massive invitation for anyone that feels called to not only activate their light language, but be held in the process and journey that really comes in that initiation afterwards, for sure. And I have a lot of other things on my YouTube channel and my website. So I'd love to really just expand the community. And I just thank you so much, Georgie, for having me here and for connecting. I'm so happy.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure. You're just really easy to be around, just nice, beautiful, calm, open energy. It's lovely. And so yeah, thank you. And everybody, honestly, like I say, we've got all of these lovely links in the description, so please do reach out. And if there's anything that came up to you, any questions even that came through during this podcast, is then to reach out either personally or just comment below, comment into this description so that we can reach out and start to help you further, or just share further wisdom that wants to be shared and come through. And again, like, share, and then next Friday we'll have a whole new episode that's going to come out, so be ready for that too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, everyone.